Welcome to an interesting session where we're going to talk about how to prepare for civic education examination, especially with respect to the theory section. You will recall that civic education is a subject that educates you as citizen or prepares you to be a responsible citizen in the society. And if you check the root word, civic means citizens. Education, you're talking about educating the citizens. So it prepares you for better citizens. Then how do you prepare for examination? First, you have to observe that in the theory section of WAEC and even the WAEC syllabus, you are expected to know the three sessions that make up civic education. The first one is national ethics, disciplines, and values. Now, this session is a session that tests your knowledge on values, rights and duties, obligation of citizens, responsible parenthood, and others. Then you have a session that is called emerging issues in the society. That's a problematic issue when we did civic problems. Now, this is the area that deals with cultism. This is the area that deals with HIV. This is the area that deals with drug and drug abuse, drug trafficking. There's the area that deals with HIV/AIDS and human trafficking. Then you have the third section. The third section deals with governmental process and the systems. Now, this is the area that deals with political apathy, democracy, pillars of democracy, rule of law, areas that deal with political apathy, areas that deal with the structure and the function of government, areas that deal with constitution, civil society, the public service, and so on. Now, the exam will test you and you are expected to answer at least one question from each of these sections. And you are going to answer 4 questions in all. One question must come from each of the sections. Now, we need to point out, I need to point out to you one of the reasons some students don't do well, despite knowing what to write. Now, when you read a question in the theory section, you have to know what that question demands of you. Now, in most cases, it's not experience, and from the marking scheme, it has shown that it is not about the action word used. It is about the marks allotted to a particular question. Example, if a question says, state 5 importance of democracy, and that question is 5 marks, it means you have to make just a point for each. It means that each point has 1 mark. Such question does not call for explanation. You can just put it in a sentence. A rule of law is practiced in a democracy, or there is presence of practice of rule of law. As simple as that, you get your 1 mark. But if such a question says, state 5 features of democracy, 10 marks, it means that each point carries 2 marks. I mean, each point carries 2 marks, right? You are required to explain. You don't stop at rule of law is practiced in democracy. You must go further to explain in order to get your mark. And when you see the WAEC marking scheme, they will tell you, give 1 mark for mere mentioning of points and give 2 marks for any point well explained. So students miss marks because they don't take time to actually explain what they have written. Even when you are writing the importance of something, this is an argument, and they have said, okay, give us 5 importance of democracy, and you have 15 marks attached, meaning that each point has 3 marks. When you say something like democracy promotes participation of citizens, you don't stop there. There must be another sentence that will tell us how democracy promotes participation of citizens. And you can illustrate with examples in order to get your full mark. So you don't just look at it, even if they say list, and you see that, let's say they say list 5 limitations to the practice of rule of law, and you have 15 marks allotted. Now, having heard the word list, you may be tempted to say things like diplomatic immunity, immunity of public officials, insanity, and you feel you are listing, you're getting the marks. I bet you the best you can get is 5 over 15, because you'll be awarded one mark for mere mentioning of point. So you have to look at the marks allotted to know what is expected of you. It's not the action word that is used, it's the marks allotted that will tell you whether you are expected to go further and explain, or you are just to state the point and leave it there. Then, to prepare adequately, one, you need to read textbooks. You need to read the notes that the teachers have given you, the textbooks that were given to you or you were asked to buy. You need to also go through past questions and answers, especially this exam guide. You need to go through it. You need to see how questions are structured and what is expected of you. You should be familiar with how WAEC asks questions. You should go through the past questions and answer. Now, apart from reading textbook, WAEC Civic Education expects that you should be current with what is happening in your country. So you shouldn't be such person that only reads the textbook. You should be somebody that listens to news, updates his or herself about what is happening in your society. Your textbook may carry that Muhammadu Buhari is the president of Nigeria, but as we speak, 2024, he's not the president of Nigeria. Your textbook may carry that Atahi Rijega is the INEC chairman, but it's not. So you must have to update, and WAEC can go as far as testing you in the current issues in your own country. Remember, in 2020, WAEC, they tested them on COVID-19. COVID-19 is not in any of the textbooks of civic education. It's not in the syllabus, but it's an emerging issue in the society. So WAEC expects that you should be current about what is happening in your country, because they can ask you questions on what is happening, because you are trained to be responsible citizen that is abreast with the situation of the country. Somebody who is aware of the happenings in the country, so you must be current. So you don't limit yourself only to the textbook. The textbook will not give you everything that civic education requires of you. The notes your teacher has given you will not give you everything that civic education is required of you. You have to actually be aware. Then it is expected, even in the WAEC syllabus, it is expected that as a citizen you must go through 1999 Constitution as amended. You must go through it, because some questions you answer it better if you are abreast with the provisions of 1999 Constitution. There are questions that will test your knowledge on that. Questions that will ask you which of the following bodies is not established in the country, or which of the following is not function of INEC, or tenure of office of the president. Such things can be found in the 1999 Constitution. So you must be abreast with what 1999 Constitution is saying. And also, another secret of success in WAEC is you need to study the trend and the past questions and answers. Now, if you come to emerging issues, you will look at it and okay, this year cultism is there. You also saw, let's say, HIV there. Then make sure you prepare yourself for something like human trafficking. But not that you prepare it and say it must 100%. But you try to study the trends in certain questions. Yes, they said these questions are random. It does not work always, but it works. You have to understand the trend. In emerging issues, they have asked this emerging issue, they have this emerging issues, they have not asked this. You prepare yourself. Now, that does not mean you should not prepare the other ones. Of course, they did not exhaust the content of the ones they asked, so they can go to the other content of the ones they asked. But make sure you arm yourself with the other part they did not ask. They are 80% likely to feature in the one you're going to write. Now, when you talk about national ethics, discipline, values, rights, and duties of citizens, last section, if you look at what they have asked in 2 years, they can tell you, okay, they have not asked from these topics and this area. You can begin to study these areas, but that does not mean you don't study the ones they asked, because they can change the content. Because when you learn the topic in school, you see that the specific objectives, you have like 5 specific objectives. So WAEC in a particular year must have taken 2. So they still have about 3 to take. So when you do, you don't limit, but assure yourself that you to the point of 70%, you can say that they are likely. The probability of asking questions from these ones that have not asked is very high. You come to governmental system and processes. You prepare yourself. You look at the ones that have asked. Then the ones that have not asked, you try to look at them. Again, prepare yourself, looking at it that the probability is up to 70% that they'll ask from this. Also prepare for the other ones. Because like 2023, they talked about the functions of public service. Yes, you can say they will not ask public service again. Of course, there are other things they can ask. They can ask the features of public service. They can ask the problems of public service. They can ask you how to promote public service or solve the problems of public service. So that is why I told you, you look at this, give it 70%, give the other ones 30%, which means you have to prepare for the other ones that they have asked. And master all the questions, because at times there is repetition of questions. They can repeat questions. So you should abreast yourself with knowledge of the ones they have asked. Make sure you know them. Make sure you know them adequately. Go through the correction, go through the answers that we're going to give you. Go through the answers in your past questions and equip yourself with them, because there is also likelihood that questions asked in the past can resurface tomorrow. So you must prepare yourself to this. So always remember the first one I told you. A student can know a topic. The topic you prepared for can come out. You can fail it if you don't attend to the demands of that question. And what did I tell you about the demands of the question? The demand of the question is, if a question calls for more than 1 point, more than 1 mark, if it requires 2 or 3 marks, it means you must explain. You don't limit yourself to 1 sentence explanation. You must have to about 2 or 3 sentences, or you do what we call list and explain adequately for you to have your full mark. Don't be stingy with your write-up, and you must practice how to explain, because you don't just write for writing's sake to bother or bore your examiner. The examiners, they don't really have time. This thing is what you must do as a practice. You must take time. Don't just read. You must create time to attempt the question, attempt explanations of this question. Take it to your civic education teacher, who most likely should attend WAEC coordinations. So take it to the person to review what you have written and score you. So make sure you always try these explanations. It's very, very important that you attempt explanation. And ask your civic education teacher if he attends WAEC coordination. If he attends WAEC coordination, ask him of the marking scheme so that you have the right source of information. You have the first-hand information of that examination body that will test you, the way what is expected of students, the way they wrote it. It will prepare you better if you begin to lay hands on the marking scheme, not just past questions and answers. Tell your teacher, ask your teacher if he has access to WAEC Civic Education marking scheme. Try to look at it and see what is expected of you. If you do this, I assure you it's very easy to get A1 in civic education. And remember, in civic education, the theory question is 60 marks, while the objective question, even though it's 50 in number, but it is weighed down to 40 marks. So if you do very well in theory, you're already on your way of making A. You just need some marks in the OBJ in order to get A1. Thank you very much. I wish you good luck out there.